Hello, everyone, and welcome to the leadership show called My Great Aunt Edna, the leadership show that focuses on excellence, doing things the right way, no shortcuts, and accountability. I'm your host, Mac McNeil, and if you don't know already, I am a huge hockey fan. And today's guest is Wayne Petersen, the Director of Community Relations and Hockey Partnerships for the Minnesota Wild. Wayne talks about how his legacy of creating a better state of hockey is his goal. Enough said. Let's get to it. So really excited to have you on the show today, Wayne. Welcome to the show.
Mac, good to see you, and thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you, sir. So as I was telling you before the camera started rolling, I'm a season ticket holder of Minnesota Wild. Really excited about everything the team is doing there. And I know one of the focuses is getting more involved in the community, diversity in all aspects. And I know you are the primary person in charge of that. So I'd love for you to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into some questions related to, your current job today.
Okay. Well, I consider myself very lucky that, when I was a kid, I loved sports. I played sports. I watched sports. I was so sports hungry, but I really didn't know how to get involved in sports back then. It wasn't such a clear path then as there is now. But I went to graduate school at Minnesota State University and got my master's in sports administration. And while I was at Minnesota State, I applied for an internship with the Minnesota Twins in 1987.
Okay.
And got the internship. And if you know anything about the Twins, that was a pretty dang good year. They won the first World Series. That was like a fairy tale, and I was hooked. So I worked for the Twins from 1987, and they hired me full time when I got my degree. I was there from 87 to 2000. Mm-hmm. And in the summer of 2000, I was contacted by the Minnesota Wild. That was the 2000-2001 season was their inaugural year. And they asked, hey, would you be interested in coming over to St. Paul and working for the Wild? And I didn't have to think long and hard about it. I knew it'd be a great opportunity to get in the ground floor. And so I made the move. And I've been with the Wild now ever since. So it'll be 23 years this summer. Wow. Hard to believe it's been that long. And like you say, all it means is I'm getting old. But I really love my job. Consider myself very lucky to do something I'm passionate about. I've worn many hats with the Wild over the years, but as you said, I'm the Director of Community Relations and Hockey Partnerships. I've been doing this now for 7 years, and this is really where my passion is. And I talked to a group of season ticket holders last week, and I told them how lucky I felt I was to have the job that I have, and they said, you do have a great job. And I try to be mindful of that every day.
I would say that you absolutely have a great job. Not only are you in professional sports, but, you get to get out into the community as well and see the people that it impacts. And not many executives have that opportunity. So that's pretty amazing to me.
I'll probably get into this in a bit, but sometimes just the smallest things can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
And even if it's on one person's life, I mean, it's well worth it.
Yeah. That's a good one right there. And again, thinking about the jobs that we get into, just to be able to do that is pretty special. Before we get into the formalized questions, I do want to ask you a question, because you went to school, you said for sports administration. Is that what it was?
My master's, yes.
Yeah. So, and then you went right into that particular role, and not everyone has that luxury to do exactly what they go to school for. Many times I interview people here, and they're doing things that, it's exciting things that they're doing right now. But then when we talk about what they did in school, it doesn't actually line up. So how are you that fortunate to do that?
Well, let me tell you, my wife is a good example of that. My wife actually is a colleague, but she works on the arena side of the business. So she does all the concerts, like the high school tournaments, the NCHC Frozen Face Off, the Frozen, those events. she's in charge of marketing and communications for the Xcel Energy Center. She was a French major. And now she's in charge of, she oversees, marketing and communications for the Xcel Energy Center. I got lucky. So I graduated with my undergraduate in 1984. And back then, there were no schools that I knew of that offered like sports marketing or sports administration as an undergraduate.
Mm-hmm.
But there was only a handful of schools that offered it at the graduate level. And so I was actually, when I graduated from Augustana, I was Augustana University in Sioux Falls. I worked in banking for a couple of years. And it's like, this isn't me. I know this. And I paid the bills, and that's about it. And I decided to roll the dice. And so I applied to a few schools and chose Mankato because I wanted to really work in the Twin Cities. And now there's a much clearer path for kids that want to get into this field. I mean, there's tons of schools and universities that offer it at the undergraduate and the graduate level.
Right.
And it's a very competitive field too to get in. There's not a ton of jobs, but there's a lot of interest in people trying to get those jobs.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing that we have you in the role, and it sounds like your wife married into it, is what I heard there. It's like, well, if you're going to be here all the time, I might as well be here as well, in another capacity.
Sometimes we're like two ships, in the night, because if I'm not there, she's there, because this is we're coming into a very busy season, and with hockey, the state hockey tournaments and wrestling and the NCHC and hopefully a long playoff run and all sorts of concerts. So one of us is almost always there.
Hopefully you guys have a nice apartment like right by there.
No questions.
All right. So let's get into some of these questions here.
Yeah.
So first question I have for you. So as Director of Community Relations and Hockey Partnership for the Minnesota Wild, what is your desired outcome from the collective works that you have accomplished over the years?
We have two missions. First is to win the Stanley Cup.
Let's do it. I'm with you on that.
Let's do it. Yeah. And the second is like you mentioned, we're the state of hockey, but our mission is to create a greater state of hockey. And that's where I feel I'm very lucky in my job. And that's something that I literally get to do every day, is to create a greater state of hockey. And it doesn't matter if it impacts one kid or impacts a big community. It's very fulfilling. And, we may not have a big staff. We may not have a big budget, but we do have a big platform. And it's our responsibility to use that platform to do good. And so I would say, we do a lot. You mentioned my work in diversity, equity, inclusion. And we do a lot of volunteer work in the community. We do a lot of work in the field of education. We support our hometown heroes that are military. We do a lot of great hockey programming, and all of it adds up,
Yeah.
And sometimes things just fall in our lap, and or sometimes I'll be watching the news and I'll see a story. I said, we need to do something about that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story that Ethan Glenn, the high school student from Bloomington Jefferson who broke his neck playing football. Big hockey player. Hockey is his favorite sport. And I met his dad and his brother back in November at the Jack Jablonski Foundation Gala. And Ethan was in Colorado getting treatment. Ethan is now back in the Twin Cities. Unfortunately, he's paralyzed, much like Jack Jablonski is. But I saw Mike Max from CCO TV do an interview with him, and the kid had his whole life turned upside down.
Yeah.
And but he has such an incredible attitude. So we invited Ethan and his family and his hockey teammates to a hockey game. Gave him a suite. Found out shockingly that Kirill Kaprizov is his favorite player.
Yeah.
So we had Nordy come to the suite, surprise him with an autographed Kirill Kaprizov jersey. And,
Yeah.
and that just made his day. And it was so cool to be there to see that and to play a small role in that.
So I have to tell you, Wayne, and I'm biased. I'll just admit it to everyone listening right now, but I think the Minnesota Wild do the best job at that here in the Twin Cities or in the state of Minnesota. When I think about all of the entities and, different sports franchises and so on and so forth, my wife and I talk about that regularly, that from what we see, just, of course, we're part of it because we're season ticket holders, but the marketing, the commercials, what you're just talking about, what you're doing in the community with, special needs. It's everyone really that I've seen. Like everyone is actually touched in some capacity by the Minnesota Wild. So I just wanted to commend you for that while I had the opportunity on the air. But I'm honest in that assessment. I also have season tickets for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I enjoy their games as well. But I think the Wild is just on another plateau when it comes to that.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a priority, from the top down.
Yeah.
Craig Leopold our owner was asked, I was there in the room, what's your favorite thing about being an owner?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, first thing was winning.
Yeah, I like that answer. Yes.
Yep. And the second was making a positive impact in the community.
Yeah.
And so it starts from the top. And it's a priority of ours, and it's my responsibility to bring it to life. And I have great help. There's a lot of people that do great things in our organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So my next question for you, sir, is you've had other roles within the organization. So how is that different from being the community face and maybe someone that's behind the scenes that no one knows? Like, how is that different?
Well, so when I first started back in 2000, I was in game operations. Then I moved on to a couple of different marketing roles, and all jobs that I enjoyed. And like I said, I've been there 23 years. I've kind of lost track, but I think I've been in my current role for 7 years. And this is my passion.
Yeah.
And I work very closely with our president, Matt Maka, and he said, "Wait, it's clear that this is where you're meant to be."
Mm-hmm.
And so I take my role very, very seriously. I have a great team to work with, so it's my passion, and we all I have good days and bad days, just like everybody else. But the good days far outweigh the bad days. And I just love being able to put a smile on somebody's face, like we did for Ethan Glenn. When he came to a game with his parents and his brother and his hockey teammates. And, I'll give you another example. There was a young black hockey player, 13 years old. His mom reached out to me that he was experiencing some racism. And just want to know anything we can do. So I invited her and her son to a game, and she was in on it, but her son knew nothing. So during the game, I had Nordy go down to his seats and deliver him a signed Matt Dumba jersey. So he was pretty excited about that. Then after the game, I met he and his mom, and so I talked to the young man, and I said, I'd like to meet the guy who signed that jersey for you. He goes, yeah. And so I brought him down, and not only did he meet Matt, but he met Ryan Reeves, met Jordan Greenway.
Oh, wow.
And all three guys said, they've lived what he's living.
Right. Yeah.
And so they gave him encouragement, gave him some words of wisdom. And since then, I've now connected him with Calvin Simon, who's the only black head boys hockey coach in Minnesota at Shakopee High. And he's done this now for a few kids.
Yeah.
That he is becoming a mentor to these kids. And I hear from the parents and say, they're very thankful to the Wild for what we have done for their son. I'm very thankful to guys like Matt and Jordan and Ryan, but I'm thankful to Calvin too. All play a role in shaping this young man's life. We want to keep guys like this in the game of hockey. So they're happy to do what they can to do just that.
Not only is that an awesome story, but I was thinking, if I was 13 and that happened to me, that would be mind-blowing. I mean, you're meeting all three of those guys, extremely experienced, exactly what you just said. They've gone through it. They've been there and they've done that. They've been successful. That's pretty special right there.
Yeah, and we had a situation last year where, again, there was a young kid who was experiencing racism from within his own locker room. And the same thing, meet and greet with Matt and Jordan, and then it kept connected Ben with Calvin, and they've stayed connected. And Ben is thriving right now. Stayed in the game, and he's thriving.
I like that. Stayed in the game. You don't quit. You said something earlier that triggered a thought in me. You said, my good days outweigh my bad. We all experience that, but it reminded me of a song called I Won't Complain. I need to send you a clip of this song, but, whenever I have those days, I listen to that and watch this little video, and it helps you to keep going. And very similar to what you're doing for those young men. You're giving them something to help them keep going. So, pretty special.
It helps me keep going too.
Yeah,
it does.
Good point. Very good point. All right. So my next question, sir. And we're talking about this ironically, but one of the statistics that is well known in the state of Minnesota is that 80% of the hockey players under the age of 8 are white. Yet 80%, excuse me, I said that wrong. It's 86% of the hockey players under that age are white, and then 80% of the total state population is white. So that's a 6% delta that we're looking at here. So what strategies are being deployed by the Minnesota Wild to increase the diversity of young players in hockey?
I'll talk about one program in particular that we launched. Our goal was to launch it pre-COVID, but it got delayed for a couple of years. But it's called Hockey Is For Me. And the program is intended exclusively for kids of color ages 5 to 8. And so there we have a group of local BIPOC leaders that we lean on to help us identify kids of color in that age group. And so we try to get 100 kids every August, September to register for the program. And so what it includes is 4 weeks of learn to skate. And that's at Tria Rink, our practice facility in downtown St. Paul. And we provide helmets and gloves and skates for them to use. If they're still interested, then we enroll them in our Little Wild Learn to Play program. And so that's 4 more weeks of on-ice instruction. Plus they get all their gear for free.
Wow.
Which pads, skates, stick, breachers, everything. Then if they want to continue to play after that, then we provide a grant of up to $500 to register them with their local youth hockey association. And we want to make it as difficult as possible for them to say, no, I'm not going to try it. And it's been so cool when we have the Learn to Skate over at Tria Rink, seeing not only the rink full of kids of color, which you don't see often.
Yeah.
But seeing their parents in the stands, and it's very rewarding and fulfilling to see all this take place. And we've stayed in touch now with a number of people who have progressed and went on and are playing with their local youth hockey association. And in fact, I just spoke with a hockey mom. She's from Ethiopia originally.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's now a hockey mom. And she loves it. And she absolutely loves it. And she and her kids, Matt Dumba just had his Hockey Without Limits camp out at the Oval in Roseville, and she was there with her kids. And you know, she doesn't look like your typical hockey mom,
Yeah.
but she is one. And she was there. I think she was there for 6 hours. I said, man, you must be tired. She goes, I am, but I love it. And she loves calling herself a hockey mom. And
Yeah.
she never would have given hockey a second thought were it not for this program. So very, very proud of what that program has accomplished. And we hope we can continue to grow and get more kids of color in the game. Like I say, we want to make the game more diverse. We want to make it more inclusive. But most importantly, we want to make it welcoming.
Yeah.
We want these kids to feel like they're welcome and they're a part of this great game.
Yeah. So one great program. I love the concept. I really haven't followed many other NHL organizations to see if they're doing something similar, but I love the fact that it's being done here in the state of Minnesota. And I am a firm believer that if you expose children to hockey at a young age, regardless of their race, they're going to be excited about it. You know, they might not continue to do it, but just giving them that exposure reminds me of a scene, and I know you've seen this movie several times, but Soul on Ice, done by Kwame Mason. But the scene in there where, you know, guy sitting in the barbershop, I think it was, or standing out by the basketball court, I can't remember, but he was saying it to himself like, hey, if I was in high school and I had been exposed to this, it's probably something I would have tried, but at my school, it wasn't offered. So I think, you know, the fact that you're doing that is great. You know, as you were speaking, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, how else can we get the word out about, you know, this program, you know, not just in the state of Minnesota, but I'm thinking, you know, nationwide. How do we get the word out and expose people to, you know, the great sport of hockey?
Well, I know that that's a big initiative of the
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know, I work with great people like Kim Davis,
Yeah,
and Jeff Scott, and you know, there are a lot of teams in the NHL that are trying to grow the game. You know, and this is one way that we're trying to do it in Minnesota. And I often like to say one kid at a time, you know, and then, you know, I talked about how I love talking about introducing kids to the game, but I love introducing adults to the game too.
that was my next point.
Yeah. And was it 2 years ago when we were celebrating Black History at a Wild game, and I had a suite full of local Black leaders, many of whom had never been to a game before. And we won that game 7-0, and it was so much fun. And I had to warn them, it's not always like this. We said there are plenty of duds here and there.
Yeah.
When you might get beat 5-0, but you're there, you see it, and you're hooked. And I've had the good pleasure of being able to introduce a number of people that have never been to a game, and you know, it's, as you know, it's a great atmosphere.
It is.
It's for everyone. You know, it's for everyone.
And I'm trying to do the same at a much smaller scale than, you know, what you're doing. But, you know, I'm bringing a lot of friends that come to visit me in Minnesota who've never been to a hockey game, and I take them to the Wild game and they're hooked. Yeah. You know, they're asking questions, and they're going back home to Nashville or wherever they're from, and, you know, they're learning about their team. So you're right. It's fun to introduce people to the sport.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. So my next question, sir. So fast forward 20 years from now, 2043. So what would you like people to say about the impact that you have had on the game of hockey as a leader?
Well, I'm guessing I'll be retired by then.
I'm guessing. I'm just throwing that out there as a guess. Yeah.
I'd like my legacy to be that I was passionate about my job, that I really wanted to make an impact. Again, whether it was introducing kids of color to the game or helping kids like Ethan Glenn, you know, who suffered a horrific accident and is paralyzed, doing a lot of our volunteer opportunities that we're going to, you know, be volunteering at Ronald McDonald House in a couple of weeks. To somebody who really went the extra mile and wanted to make an impact on people's lives. You know, we celebrate Military Appreciation Day every year. Yeah. And I was able to, you know, we've done it 3 years now. We had to take a little hiatus during COVID, but we were able to surprise a veteran with a road trip with the Wild. And this past December, when we celebrated Military Appreciation Night, I had worked with the Hendrickson Foundation. Darby Hendrickson's father started it. I said, hey, can you help me identify a veteran who would be worthy of going on and surprising him with a road trip?
Yeah.
So we identified a veteran. His name is Nick Casalter. Lives up in the Iron Range. Army veteran, but he's also starting to grow the Minnesota Warriors hockey program up in the Iron Range. So we invited him down to the Military Appreciation Night, and we say, we want to thank you for everything you're doing to grow the Warriors hockey program up in the Iron Range. And so he came down to the game, and I said, you know what, we like, Kevin Gord would like to interview you during intermission. Talk about all the work you're doing to grow the Warrior hockey program up in the range. But the whole idea is that on live TV, he was going to be surprised with the trip to with the Wild. So during the interview with Kevin Gord, Billy Gearin came in on this and interrupted and said, "Hey, we'd like to, as a thank you, we'd like to offer you, come with us to Buffalo." And then he later found out during the second intermission that he could bring his dad, and his dad is also a veteran, and his dad played for Herb Brooks at the University of Minnesota and won a national title. So it was really cool. But they got to go. They had to go on the team charter. They got to go to team meetings. They got to go to team meals.
That's crazy.
And just, and I'm lucky too that a guy like Billy Garrett and Dean Evison said, "Yep, we're all in."
Yeah,
they're very supportive of it. So it's just wanted to be able to come up with those ideas and be able to actually, put them into action and see the impact it has on people. These are two men that served our country.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And it's
absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. And I'm just throwing this out there for you, Wayne. So I'm an Army Special Operations War veteran. If you want to throw another trip in there, I'm joking about that. But I am a Special Operations War veteran. But need some help, getting the word out to veterans or anything like that, just shoot something my way.
Do you skate?
No, I ski. I don't skate much.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
Downhill or cross country?
Downhill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Luton. I was up there for Christmas. Buck Hill. I was just out there last weekend. I want to go to Afton probably here in the next week or two. Yeah. Right. But Colorado next year, most definitely, in Jackson Hole. They're on my list.
Right.
Yeah, most definitely. And then Germany. I grew up in Germany. So I want to head on over there and do a little bit of skiing.
So were you a son of a veteran?
Son of a veteran and a veteran myself. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your service.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you. All right. So jumping back into these questions here, I have another one for you. So what has been the biggest leadership challenge that you personally have had to overcome, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, I would say the most difficult part of my job is having to say no. Just because, like I said, we have limited resources.
Right.
We don't. I don't have a big staff. I don't have unlimited dollars to spend. So having to say no has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And easily the most difficult. I said before is that, being a professional sports organization, you get a lot of asks of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure.
And because you got such a big platform.
Yeah.
And there are times when it's like, you just can't. You can't fulfill every request that you get as badly as you want to. I try to do as much as we can for as many people as we can.
Right.
But it's just not possible all the time. So that one's tough. That was tough to overcome. And it's, my staff is the same way. They want to do as much as they can, but there's only so many hours in the day and,
true.
So many things that we can do. So we try to cast a big net, as big a net as possible. But sometimes you're just not able to do everything that's asked of you and things that you want to do.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be difficult, especially in your situation being the face. in community relations, to have to say no to someone that's, truly in need, but only have, so many resources. I can see where that would happen. But I have a follow-up question for you. So are your no's more external than they are internal? Like when you have to say no to your staff or anything?
I would say they're more external,
Okay.
because a lot of times they just reach out, could be someone from St. Paul, somebody from Albert Lee, or somebody from Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
But you prioritize the ones that are, closer, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would say they're more external, but sometimes you have to say no internally. I also sometimes, because I need help from other people in our office, I ask a lot of them, and sometimes they have to say no.
Yeah.
I say like, hey, I need a suite because I want to entertain these people, or it's like, help, we don't have any, can't give you one.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, the USA wheelchair curling team is going to be in the Twin Cities for training before they head to the international competition up in British Columbia.
Okay.
And they want to go to a game. But because a large portion of are wheelchair bound, all of our suites are sold out, all of our ADA seats for that game, they wanted to go. It was tough. It's like, I would love to have you come, but I don't have the means because we don't have any suites to put you in. We don't have any ADA seats because they're sold out. It's like, it was tough.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to bring them in and send them off to BC and wish them luck, but just couldn't, just because we just didn't have the means, because it's the one drawback of being sold out so many times, you don't have the ability to, give tickets and things like that to people you want to bring in. But that's just one example.
Good example. And yes, those games are damn near sold out every time I'm there.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. It's not a bad problem to have.
No. I often, a lot of times when we go to, in fact, just before I came out with you, I got an email from the NHL with a save the date for the NHL club business meetings, which will be out in Los Angeles in July. And a lot of times when I'm at the club business meetings, I often think, how lucky am I that I work for an NHL team in Minnesota?
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to Phoenix or Los Angeles or Fort Lauderdale or, these non-traditional hockey markets.
Right.
I mean, like you said, this is the state of hockey. How lucky am I?
Extremely.
Yes.
Most definitely. All right, sir. So my last question for you here. So, and this is my staple question. I ask everyone this question. So, as a leader in today's environment, what are one or two things that pisses you off as a leader that you wish you could change?
We talked a little bit about this earlier, but what pisses me off is that there are people out there that don't think racism is a problem in our game. And I'm not saying that it's, widespread, but it's out there.
Yeah.
And I've, being a white man, obviously I haven't experienced it, but in this position, I've talked to a lot of people firsthand who have, and the stories I hear, and it's like, you gotta be kidding me. It's just tragic and sad that stuff goes on.
Yeah.
And it's like, the kid wants to play hockey. Let the kid play hockey. And I was telling you about just the other night when a 13-year-old came to a game with his mom, and his mom said, yeah, when he was 11, we had someone's grandpa attacked him.
What?
Yes. And it's like, that's what I said to her. And it's like, it's amazing he still wants to play hockey. And he is an amazing young man.
Wow.
I was so impressed with his demeanor, and And I know he's a good hockey player. He's a good student, and he plays 4 instruments.
Oh my goodness!
And he's 13. And so one of the instruments that he plays are the drums. And I think sometimes he'll just take his frustrations out. He'll say, "Mom, it'll be 10:30 at night. Can I go play the drums?" And she said, "Yep, you go right ahead." But that when I hear the stories from these people that experience the racism,
Yeah,
and the things that are said, and it's like that just pisses me off, and it just makes me want to do my work even more to get more kids of color involved in the game, so it becomes like any other sport,
right.
you know. And it's people don't give it a second thought whether you're Asian,
Mm-hmm.
Hmong, if you're black, if you're white, if you're from the indigenous community, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
hockey is for everyone, and again, let's say one kid at a time. We can impact one kid at a time. That's a good thing. But this is a peak off.
Yeah, I can understand why that would piss you off. We haven't talked about this much, but being that we are in the Twin Cities, and George Floyd situation, or murder, as not a situation, but
Yeah.
Castro, we can keep going on and on. So being in this city and moving here, one of the first things I felt was that it felt like people were extra nice to me. That's what it felt like. But it's because of the effort of trying to say that, hey, this is not us. This is not what we represent, but there's some elements there. But I can tell you that as a black man, one of the places that I feel where it's actually, I guess, progressing is when I go to the hockey games. I can tell you that as a black man, like I can feel that. Not only what I talked about earlier about the fact that, you guys are in the community better than any of the organizations, I feel anyway. But when I go to the games, like, the way people reach out and they're talking to me, we talk hockey, they know what I'm talking about, and it just feels welcoming. So, I just wanted to let you know that it's working. Whatever the hell you're doing, Wayne, it's working.
Wow. It's not just me. There was a bunch of people in St. Paul that are passionate about this. And I have noticed over the years that we are getting to be a little more diverse in the stands. And that's great.
Yeah. And it will continue, as you said, one kid at a time, and me inviting, one fan at a time. It'll get there.
So we've been proud to sponsor the Be the Change golf tournament each of the last 3 years, and since its inception, and I played in it each of the last 3 years, and I've made they always put a local black leader in each group, and so I've made a lot of connections through that, and I've maintained relationships with the leaders that I've golfed with. Most recently, it was Fire Chief Brian Tyner from Minneapolis.
Yeah.
James Burrows, who's the senior VP of DE&I at Children's Minnesota, and then Johnny Chapman. And I love Johnny. And Johnny is from Chicago. He's probably about my age, and moved to Minnesota a while back, but got him to his first hockey game. And then he was just having a great time. And I even got him on he's a basketball guy, big man. Got him on his Zamboni. And a smile was ear to ear. And now I've had him back a couple more times, and he just loves it. That's, one kid at a time. I don't care if you're 6 or 66.
Yeah.
We want to introduce you to the game of hockey. You don't have to play hockey. You can just come and like hockey. Everybody's welcome.
Love it. Love it. So, Wayne, I want to thank you for this time. And I know you're a busy man. You have a lot going on. A lot of people want your FaceTime. So I appreciate you giving a little time to the listeners out there. I call them the nieces and nephews of my great aunt Edna, the leadership platform. But before we go, I just want to turn it over to you. See if you have any last minute things you want to say to the audience out there.
Well, thanks for having me on. And it was nice meeting you, this winter with a common friend, Kwame Mason, who's doing great work himself up in Toronto. He's made several trips to the Twin Cities at my invitation. He's always nice to accept the invitation. I think he's coming back this summer. But, thank you for all the kind words.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
You should let me know the next time you're there. I'd like to connect with you.
I will do that. Yeah.
Come up and see you and know what you say, C11 or C13?
C11.
Okay. So we'll have to connect next time. But we're enjoying what we're doing. We're passionate about what we're doing. And like I said, we have a big platform. It's our responsibility to use it for good. And our mission is to create a greater state of hockey, and hopefully we're able to do that.
Outstanding, sir. Appreciate it. So for all you listeners and watchers out there, don't hit the stop button yet. We're going to put Wayne's information up if you want to find out what he's doing in the community. Even if you're not in the Twin City areas and you want to replicate the work that he's doing there, be a great person to reach out to. Go wild. I want to say that before we leave the air here. And for everyone, tune in to the next leadership show. So appreciate you guys all watching.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. And as I said, I'm a huge hockey fan and really thankful that Wayne Petersen of the NHL's Minnesota Wild took the time to tell us how his impact goes far beyond the ice. Wayne's information is up on the screen right now to find out how you can use some of his strategies to do the same thing in your community. And also, I'd like to remind you that my book called My Great Aunt Edna, The Golden Girl of Leadership, is available right now. And lastly, subscribe to this channel so that you can hear from leaders from all over the world on how they can help you in your own leadership journey. And with that, I say thank you. May your week be excellent, and God bless. Go Wild.